Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Asterix movie. Today we're doing Asterix and the Big Fight from 1989. All right, so pre-info about this movie. It actually has two English dubs, a British one and an American one. However, the British dub was released originally on VHS, which is why the copy on YouTube is as PAL speed up, so we're not going to be doing that one. Apparently, there's no, as far as I'm aware, the only version that's in circulation right now is the American dub. The British dub has apparently been abandoned.
So we're checking out this Blu-ray dub.
So we're watching this via the American Blu-ray release.
I'm guessing the American Blu-ray one probably sounded more in line with the previous dubs. Well, okay, did they have like different voice actors?
I doubt it.
Or was it just pretty much the frame rate?
Considering the time gap between this and the Cleopatra movie, I'm pretty sure this is a different cast.
Right then. So, Asterix and the Big Fight. From what I've been warned, this is apparently one of the lesser animated films.
It's based on one of the books that Till likes the least.
Two, actually.
Oh, two. Oh,
I thought that was just Asterix versus Caesar.
What happens in the Big Fight is just at the very beginning. Most of the story is based on Asterix and the Soothsayer, which is one of my least liked.
Oh, right. Okay, in that case, I guess we'll have to see.
All right. I'm ready.
Start before the movie is literally starting. It's a black screen.
Yeah. The movie literally basically has no major logos thing, at least from the Blu-ray copy we have. So you should be fine. All right. Or if you have any logos, skip all of them. Basically. All right. 3, 2, 1, click.
I see. We have yet another animation bump.
Space.
Well,
the final frontier.
Yeah. Remember, Jova, this was after the British movie and
Le Coup de Menhir.
I'm looking
That's
for
the French title of the. The reason why the Big Fight was chosen for the title of the movie, despite having little representation in it was literally for marketing purpose. So they thought it sounded actually more palatable for publicity.
Yeah. If I remember, this was 1989, and as a result, Uderzo and Goscinny. If I remember correctly, by this point, Goscinny had already died. By this point,
I forgot.
Yeah, Uderzo was still alive because Uderzo, I think, only died in like recent years.
But you noticed already something, Jova. The fact that this beginning of the movie is actually already more somber and less cheerful than the usual narration at the beginning.
I wonder, will this be better or worse than Asterix versus Caesar? Asterix versus
Caesar. That's up to you for judgment, but I'm telling you, the general tone of this movie is depressing.
I guess my main issue with Asterix vs. Caesar was not only just how inconsistent the tone was, but how out of nowhere the dark tones came.
It took them until 2019, Jova, for them to finally make an Asterix movie that can be both funny and serious without breaking the tone.
From what I understand, the America film managed that, but one thing I've noticed is that even the narrator sounds a lot more somber than previous versions.
We don't even have the usual, the Caesar has conquered almost all of the Gaul territory.
And yeah, like we said, quite a big bump in animation from the movies from the 60s, definitely.
Yeah, the animation definitely looks good.
And by this point, Uderzo's art style had completely been completely refined, and it reflects on the animation for this movie too, because the characters look exactly like their typical modern designs that we were all see nowadays.
I'm certainly looking forward to the Vikings film, which was the last one done in 2D animation. See what the pinnacle was.
I don't get to watch the version of the movie that has Bill Oddie voice Asterix.
Who?
You know the British
you're
actors from the British dub?
Can you tell us who that is?
Bill Oddie, he's one of our more famous TV presenters around here in the UK.
Well, the music is definitely a lot more grandiose.
I'm sad.
Yeah, for this movie they have a more professional musician.
And yes, Jova, the Centurion is the same one from the versus Caesar movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that checks out.
It's even worse. The voice of Getafix in the UK version is the original voice of the Daleks, Peter Hawkins.
Now that one I am familiar with.
Quite a surprisingly star cast.
Also, Joe, if the narrator sounded somber to you, it probably is because that was Tony J, apparently.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Weird though. It's Tony J doing a different inflection. Like, normally you
It's
can
the only
immediately.
voice. Well, okay, no, Mona Marshall is also in this movie, but otherwise, I don't recognize most of the other voice actors.
Let me have a look. Let's see. Still, yeah, Tony J. That's nice. Let's see. Oh, cool! They got. Oh my God! They have Henry.
No. I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Joe. But I can definitely recognize Tony J's voice in this.
So you're like
mean, he's
me
not-
then in that regard.
Well, when you were saying he was using a different inflection, I disagree. I think he's
Wait.
basically just using his normal voice.
It might have just been because we were talking over it that I didn't get a clear, good listen.
I guess then.
Oh, yeah. Listening better now. It's funny.
This man is like Christopher Lee. He could read the entire phone book. He would be entertaining.
It's funny seeing as how Tony J is the narrator for the English United States version, but he's British. Anyway, so
sorry, go on.
so the guy voicing Asterix and Dogmatix in this version, that's Henry Winkler. The
Who's that again?
Fawns.
Oh, the Fawns, huh?
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's pretty cool. For Obelisk, they got Rosie Greer. Nice. Bill Martin plays Prolix and Fully Automix.
Fully
We'll see.
automatics. Also, once again, Getafix is now about to be kidnapped by the Romans because he had no escort.
Okay, so from what I can garner, in both dubs, it seems like they definitely wanted to get some noticeable talent for this movie. Was this one also released in theaters?
In France, I'm pretty confident it was.
Definitely.
Yes.
I'm not sure about the rest of the world. And here's our incipit, the initial accident. Because of Obelix just wanting to eat the Romans, Getafix gets smashed by a Menhir.
Oh my god!
Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh god, is he dead? No. But
This franchise operates on cartoon logic. I mean, considering how many times Obelix beats the crap out of the Romans would have been dead.
The difference here, though, is like, well, this definitely looks a lot more serious.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing. In the original The Big Fight, what you're about to see is mostly played out for comedy, and the rest of the book follows suit, as Pedro noted previously about finding other druids in order to heal up Getafix. In here, no, it's treated in as the depressingly serious manner that it is, and it's just the start of the escalation of how this is such a depressing adaptation.
Which again is mind-boggling because the book is, like the rest of the franchise, a comedy. Like
Between
I
this
don't really
and versus
understand.
Caesar, I have no idea what was up with this period of self-deprecation that these adaptations wanted to have.
Also, no, Bahard, you might kill him more if you play for him.
Like, we were at the end of the Dark Age of Animation by this point.
I mean, okay. In regards to the Dark Age of Animation, I can say it's definitely animated very good. I definitely like the
I'm
look
talking
of it.
about the theming and everything. Like, remember, Dark Age of Animation allowed also a lot of more adult theme, or the general idea that all those silly things from the previous decades. But yeah, that's our result. Getafix is insane.
Well,
And
more
that's
like
dementia.
he's suffering adverse effects from his hit to the head, which, yeah, that can happen.
But
Although,
you know what that
Jesus.
means, obviously, Jova, right?
He can't make the potion.
I think.
Yep. God.
Oh boy.
Also, it's an excuse for the animators to just do whatever.
Anyway, the Dark Age of Animation was definitely what you mentioned, but it was also noticeably the overall downgrade in quality of animation that was noticeable. Like, not to say we couldn't have good animation there, but you could definitely tell the animation was not at the best of its chops. Oh,
I would say more experimental than anything, because they want the general belief was, oh, the Disney formula doesn't work, let's do something different. No! Why?
okay.
In case you forgot, this was still in the 80s.
Well, hold on.
1989.
Hold on. Well, 1989, so it was the 80s transitioning into the 90s. Wonderful.
What the hell am I watching?
Yeah.
A musical
If
number.
there's any consolation, this is basically the only genuine moment of levity of the entire movie. So cherish it. Okay, they're definitely trying to be like Pink Floyd's The Wall, even in the music department.
You could tell that when Alexander Astier and Louis Clichy took over for the CGI films, they definitely took great care to make sure their movies don't commit these mistakes.
All right. The director of the American version of the movie is David Nathan Weiss, who is was a screenwriter of films such as All Dogs Go to Heaven,
Nice.
Rockadoodle, and he co-wrote the Rugrats movie, Shrek 2,
Ooh.
Clockstoppers, Jimmy Neutron, Rugrats in Paris, The Smurfs, and its sequel, and Disenchanted.
So he's written... Okay, so he's worked on some good things.
Okay.
Yeah, my favourite Tony J role is still in Recess School's Out, where he plays a whimpering coward.
Heh.
Is that close?
Okay. Okay, to be honest, I'm sorry, you can't, no wacky moment in this movie is going to be any weirder and wackier than that dream sequence I just saw.
It's because, again, we've talked about this before. Like Taylor and me have said before, Asterix is always meant to be a satire of what was going on at the time it was invented, you know, like with the Nazis and stuff like that, right? Asterix is a comedy, first and foremost. Not to say you can't have more heartfelt stuff in it. You can. Even back in the original books, they occasionally had moments here and there. But the problem is that this movie literally goes from one extreme to the other. Like, it's trying to be way too serious for its own good in a franchise that is known for being a comedy first.
I will say, I don't feel like we've gotten to a point where it feels too uber serious like
Don't worry,
Asterix
Jova,
vs.
we
Caesar
just
got.
started. But yeah, if you forgot, the biggest fear that the ghosts had is that their sky will fall on top of their heads, so any kind of storm is actually a bad omen to them.
Yeah, that was their biggest fear, the one and only fear, that the sky would one day fall on their heads.
Is that how the Asterix series is going to end?
Well, Dwebs, there
According
is
to the 12 task, not really.
There is a book called Asterix and the Falling Sky, but it's actually about aliens instead of the sky itself.
And
that's the one people don't like to talk about.
And a lot of satire
we don't talk about that one.
About weird media genre like Mecha and Superman.
Yeah. And allow me to bring this up as well, because we're about to get into stuff from the actual book. Because the original Big Fight book actually starts with this scene, actually. Basically, it's raining, and they're afraid because, well, they're afraid that the sky will fall, and someone is going to come up. A new stranger is going to come into the village.
Well, that happens in the Soothsayer story, Jova. In the Big Fight, he starts
sorry, I missed it. No, it was right. Soothsayer, that's it. Yeah. I personally don't mind the Soothsayer book. I don't like the way this movie executes the story, but the book itself, I think it's fine.
And
I mean, it's not my favorite Asterix book,
well,
but I don't mind it.
showed up, I guess.
I guess so.
Okay. I don't think I've asked. So go on.
Like, sorry, go on.
I don't think I've asked. Okay, obviously Asterix was translated into English because I'm pretty sure I've read one or two of the comics when I was in school. But was it localized into Portuguese and Italian?
Yes,
Yes,
every single European country as it. This franchise is
me,
entirely
it's
popular in
easy.
the entirety of Europe.
I can tell for me that it's in easy mode because we can literally do all the jokes work as well in my country, so we do literal
Just to give you an idea, Dibs, just the other day I was in the mall and I passed through a place with book, and they literally had an Asterix comic section. Like to this day, this thing is still prevalent in Portuguese mainstream culture.
So
to this
actual
day.
Portuguese or Brazilian Portuguese?
Portuguese, yes.
And there
No,
it
but,
is,
but
the
it's also,
actual
but
soothsayer.
I can tell you, Joe, it's just as prevalent in Brazil too.
Now, you notice, Joe, that presentation-wise, this actual opening of when he actually shows up is actually done fairly well, you know, how
Yeah.
imposing it is. Again, never mind the fact that this franchise is supposed to actually balance the seriousness with the comedy, but again, let's talk about in a vacuum. It's more about how his presence, you know, instigates reactions towards others.
Mm-hmm. I'll talk about it more when it becomes more prevalent.
I actually don't know who voices him. Let me check.
Yeah, Asterix is sold in quite a few volume compilations around here in one of my British
Yeah.
bookshops.
It's Asterix is like Tintin. It's like it's France's Tintin basically. It's that big popular comic book franchise that is popular to this day.
Okay, there you go. The soothsayer is voiced by William E. Martin, which passed away in 2016. He was the Nightmare King in Little Nemo. That's why the voice sounded familiar.
Huh.
Well, that actually is good casting, to be fair.
But he was mostly in. He voiced in a lot of Star Wars video game. Interesting.
Clairvoyance.
He got so.
So,
Cast.
and Asterix, of course, is the one that doesn't
The only
buy
scat.
any of this.
Yeah,
shit.
but this is the thing that I genuinely don't like about this story. The fact that Asterix is genuinely the only sane person in the entire room. Now, for the purpose of the adaptation, it also makes sense because Getafix is literally out of commission, and as such, no one is there to tell the others how to use their fucking brain. But I'm sorry, at least some of these goals have better brain cells than what they showcase here, because you will see soon enough that this guy is just a con man.
I
know.
mean, okay.
Well, okay.
I'm gonna be
go on.
honest. The goals have always struck me as very thick-headed to the point where Asterix is the standout guy who actually gets stuff done. Obelix also to an extent, but that's mainly only because he hangs around Asterix, so he probably got some of the smarts from him. But, like, no, I could totally see them falling for this, especially with Getafix out of commission, so they're extra paranoid as it is now.
To add to Jova's point, there's also, I mean, they don't say this in here, but in the book too, they even have the narration say that this was a thing that was very common about con men preying on people's superstitions, and the Gauls, like most people in this time, were incredibly superstitious of the gods. So the idea that Goscinny is trying to portray here is, you know, con men who prey on people's superstitions.
And to be fair, going off of the 12 tasks of Asterix, the gods are technically actually a thing.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's so much that they're being necessarily. They're already not the smartest people in the world, but at the same time, their superstitions allows them to be easily manipulated.
The problem is that this creates a situation where the viewer, in this case, knows already what's up and essentially have to catch up to the moment. But until that point, you need to see Asterix being a surrogate for the audience and being annoyed as fuck by this guy, and the situation not moving forward or instead backward. And not even in a funny kind of way.
I'm gonna be fair. I feel like with the way the movie's going about it, it could go one way or the other. Now, granted, you could easily see through the guy, or there could have been a twist that he actually is for real in that regard. Again, I'm not really too annoyed by this, at least I'm not annoyed with this like I was with Asterix versus Caesar, where I could definitely tell the problems right off the bat. Now, mind you, I could see how this could veer off to bad territory, but for the most part, none of this seems like it wouldn't necessarily work.
Like for example, these two have always had rivalry between each other. So of course, those two being easily turned against each other, that's not really hard to do. As for the whole beating, like the Gauls love being violent towards each other, sometimes even just for plain fun.
Yeah.
So this isn't even this is just Tuesday for them right
This
now.
honestly just feels like the usual routine with extra steps.
Yeah, a common running gag in the books is that Asterix and Obelix are returning from the forest, and they see that somebody said something that pissed off somebody, so suddenly a big fight is up. So the Gauls do this for every reason anyway.
That looked like it hurt. Tuh. I like how the conman thinks that his con may have worked a little too well.
That's lies.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you can already tell how full of shit this guy is. After the storm, sunny day. Well, no shit. Obviously, after the storm subsides, the day gets clean. That's how things work.
So,
that's not a prediction.
I do wonder if the twist is that this guy knew how the goals sink, because, again, anyone who knows how the goals sink knows that they would hate a storm like this, so of course, you know, they'd be overjoyed when it's over. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Oh, that reminds me, actually. Might as well explain something about the book. In the book, what happens is Getafix is actually away doing something. He's not crazy in the book. In the book, he's just away doing something of his own, which is why he's not around to help out. So yeah, now how
Light
are
the
we going to
candle and
prepare?
make a wish.
So yeah, with Getafix crazy, who's going to prepare the magic potion?
That's his character in this movie. He laughs about like a crazy
The
person.
vitamin potion? I think you mean the magic potion, Asterix?
I guess vitamin potion is what they call it here.
Well, not really. They did it in previous adaptations and nor in the modern ones.
I said
Bro.
here, as in this movie
Yeah,
specifically.
he said it here. Clearly, the translators of this movie tale didn't get the memo.
Could someone just knock him out already? Because
I know, right, Dweebs? Like, if you were a fan of the character, tough shit.
that's the thing, though.
Like, it's
he's
good
just
animation, actually, but it feels almost wasted.
that's like the only joke he has. He's a nutcase, which wouldn't be so bad if we didn't see him that often, because he's mostly just out of the movie otherwise. But here he's just ha 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 hoo 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 ha 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 ha. Imagine that for 90
I guess
minutes.
it's the easiest job for his voice actor. Let me check.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not like 90 minutes. He hasn't like been in for the majority of the film like that. I hesitate to call it that until we've seen enough.
Sure.
Danny Man. What a name. Let me check.
And the Romans have been defeated by a cauldron.
Alas.
Well, to be fair, these are kind of the lesser cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Actually, not even cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
at least we have Tony J to
Yeah,
give the movie more
does
class.
admittedly sounds a
Definitely.
bit different. Like, I wonder, he wasn't still that young though around this time, so weird.
Let me check.
Well, this movie probably got dubbed. I mean, it premiered in France in 1989, but the dub probably was made in the early 90s.
I can't
Oh,
imagine.
And back in the early
it would take
90s
that
is
long
when
to do it.
Tony J started doing very prominent voice acting. He did King Sweat 6, he did later the Superman animated series. He did, of course, Hunchback of Notre Dame and Beauty and the Beast as well.
Actually, the dub came out just a year after the French version.
Yeah, I can't imagine it couldn't take too
yeah.
long.
So
Early
anyway,
90s, like I said.
Anyway, so Tony J was born in 1933, so let's see. So let's assume, he was doing this in 1990 when the film came out.
57.
Yeah, around that.
Yep.
Which one's Mona Marshall's character again?
Is that this woman?
Let me check.
It's Miss
Miss
Geriatrix.
Geriatrix. She's the hot girl who's actually the wife of the oldest of
one.
them. We have seen her. It's basically a small role.
Yeah.
Instead of the wife of the chief. Let me see. I think she's voiced by Lucille Bliss.
Okay, so basically the idea is that the wife wants him to be her private, fortune-telling consultant.
Ooh la la, get it? Because it's
think
made in
I-
France.
This is the first time that I've seen hearing this dub, and I think out of all the movies we commented, this is the one where they actually intersperse some French words. Actually. Blah. Anyway, Danny Mann, the guy who voices Getafix, he has a very extensive career working for a lot of animated series. He was given a bunch of character in the Transformers series, but that's just one part of it.
And yeah, typical tactic of a snake oil salesman. Tell your customer exactly what they want to hear so they'll be happy and give you money.
Speaking from experience, Pedro.
No, this is very typical.
Dreams, I can imagine Pedro played Red Dead Redemption. That provides a good example.
Exactly.
Yeah, even the fact that they refer to Getafix as a wizard and not a druid, it's also weird. I mean, why not?
Uh-oh. Remember, Asterix and Obelix don't like
The soothsayer.
the soothsayer, so she doesn't want them to find them.
And again, this is also the start of a major big thing about the story. The idea that the soothsayer manages to, inadvertently, partially, because I can imagine he wasn't, thinking too much about this, managed to turn the villages potentially against each other little by little.
It's an
Again,
interesting
as
idea.
as a source for conflict, yes, it is possible. But despite even their cause and everything, part of the charm also of the series is the fact that the village manages to stand united against adversities, you know? And
Well,
you will see later the execution. I don't know, it feels more like a thing of just because you can doesn't mean you should, to me.
Teo, here's the thing. Like, you have to provide some kind of conflict here and there
Well-
to make things harder for them to beat the odds.
Let me put it this way: the Mansion of the Gods provided this in a much better way.
It did. And I will argue the. Hold on. Rubber ducky.
I don't
You're
know where
the
he's hiding
one.
that. I think this is also the first major case where, in this English dub, the Romans are actually given an Italian accent.
That is
I
interesting.
mean, just noticing more than anything.
Sorry, go on.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened more often.
Well, I think it might be because, with the older films, they weren't thinking as hard about it. With the later, more recent films, that's when they started to put more thought into how...
Well, I can tell you that both Mansion of the Gods, neither Mansion of the Gods nor Secret of Magic Potion really does this. It's more of a style. I guess it's just a stylistic choice that they did here.
Possibly, yeah.
Like, for example, remind me, Teo, the big fight part is, of course, the one where Caesar sends that small little guy into the village, right? Or am I thinking of a different book?
What?
I
No,
think
that's
like I said,
Asterix
the
the
big
Gaul.
fight is only what happens at the beginning. That's
Never
it.
mind then. Because, okay, we haven't... I don't know if there was a movie version of it, but I particularly like the book where Caesar actually hires a clever Roman who is sent in there as a mole to slowly, turn the Gauls against each other, and that's an actual plan from Caesar. So the context there, if you ask me, is perfectly fine. It's a Caesar tactic.
Again, I'll say this. I'm not really seeing anything particularly wrong about this movie yet. Like, it's not my favorite by any means, but it seems like it's going along relatively fine. A few blemishes here and there, but again, nothing terrible like Asterix versus Caesar yet.
Also, the post of Asterix Obelix, that's the usual standard where they're actually laughing with each other.
My only real major issue is the fact that there's less comedy than your typical Asterix story.
Even in general, again, you notice that the color palette is, not really desaturated. There's a general gray area around the movie, and even in terms of weather and stuff. I know that the Store 44 was actually a plot point, but even in general, you get to see the fact that the movie in general also has an atmosphere of less cheerfulness overall, even in the moments that are supposed to be deliberate comedy.
I also really like the fact that, although I do like this joke that they retained from the book, where when she's happy with him, she calls him Little Boar, the wife of the chief. And they find it.
It's funny because the big chief has a cutesy name from his wife.
Well, that's a joke from the book too, so that's
Yeah.
Piggy Wiggy.
Oh, that's it, Piggy Wiggy. That's what they say. Okay, sure, that works. I mean, Little Boar doesn't really translate as well if you put it in English. So Piggy Wiggy is actually a better way to put that name in English, actually. Sure. Oh, there you go. For those who don't remember, the arcade game that we did actually took cues from this, and also has some of the Romans be hiding in one of these mini little trees.
Neat.
So Solid Snake has his boxes. The Romans have tree
That's
stumps.
trees. Yes,
I
tree
mean,
stumps.
gotta camouflage with the environment.
You hate this job, then why did you take it in the first place?
Conscription.
Remember, Dweebs, the other usual gag with the Romans, as I mentioned, is that they said, get enlisted, they said. You will travel around the world, they said.
You'll have a lot of you'll be taking on a lot of people and be a hero. You said.
One does have to wonder, Like, these clearly aren't the best of the army, but apparently Rome usually keeps their best in Rome, which I get, good defense there, but you didn't think about maybe shipping down some of your best to help out and make better ground out there?
A general.
Sometimes there actually are books where they do that, but they still end
general
up being
fan theory,
beaten.
Jova, as you might have guessed, is the fact that Caesar is just toying potentially with the Gaul, and if he really wanted, he actually could crush them.
I
mean,
could
why-
see
and
that
not-
being the case. Like, as far as he's concerned, he's more or less conquered everywhere else, so...
Remember,
Yeah.
history also depicts Caesar actually as more of a, like a strategist and a great
Yeah.
quote-unquote conqueror. So it is potentially possible that rather than being pragmatic, he wanted to actually toy with. His
Like
victims.
Jova hinted, like while he would definitely love for this village to finally be, out of his hair, it's still not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things for him because he has other places he also needs to conquer.
Which kind of makes 12 Tasks of Asterix kind of ironic, since he put everything on the line for that one.
But remember, Jova, that one did not have a book to be based upon when it came out,
Yeah.
so it kind of makes sense when.
That's why I really appreciate. I really appreciate the final level of the arcade game where they create a potential final story where Caesar, okay, Gauls, final challenge. Come to my Colosseum. If you manage to defeat your opponents, I will leave your village alone forever.
And you know what? I'll give it credit. I still do really enjoy the 12 Tasks of Asterix.
Yeah.
Me too.
And yeah, this is the character voiced by Mona Marshall.
I think my only issue with 12 Tasks of Asterix is that for the final challenge, Caesar just pits some of his best against the Gauls, even though he should know that that's a sucker bet.
Mm-hmm. Geriatrics.
That's the name of her husband because he's
Yeah,
old.
I know.
Oh,
Is this
okay.
is this the kind of voice Marshall uses more in South Park?
No, in South Park, she usually does Kyle's mom.
And Wendy. So, that is...
I mainly know her from.
Jova, nowadays it's April Stewart that voices Wendy.
Well,
I
she
mainly know her
used
from
to voice
Digimon.
Wendy.
Sure.
The owl adds on to the authenticity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just as long as he doesn't shit all over the place.
At the very least, owls usually deposit their stuff in pellets as opposed to outright messes like
No,
most
we do
birds.
both. They vomit also.
I mean,
yeah.
I will say this. I mean, of all the 2D animated films, this is probably the best animated, definitely. It looks
Until
really
this
good.
point, yes.
Yeah, I think the America film has better animation, which, okay, to be fair, 1994, so improvements. The snippets I've seen of the Vikings movie looks pretty promising as well.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it in a very long time, so. I mean, yeah.
Ooh.
You just have to be glad that he didn't do the dog
The piss in the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would've been
I
so
legit
easy.
thought that's what they were going to do. Oh, look at that. Just what we needed. A
A
Roman.
Roman in a present.
Ha ha, branching out.
Yeah.
Funny,
They're coming out of the woodwork.
literally.
To be fair, that actually fits because there's a lot of puns in Asterix, even in the original French version, so that's actually on brand. Literally every single character name is a pun.
At least we have a
Yeah,
guinea pig now.
although I got a question though. Wouldn't it be lovely if they stopped those for a bit?
Ooh.
That really wasn't.
Oh.
Oh,
Whatever that potion did, it gave him a dragon tail.
it's turned him into a lizard.
Oh, there you go.
Somebody had a lot of fun in the animation booth, I can tell, with this movie.
This is the running theme of Asterix movies. Like, the animators love finding excuses to flex their muscles.
Yeah, they were definitely going Rover and Wile E. Coyote with this one.
Yep. Definitely. Yep.
He's gonna tunnel all the way down to the other side of the earth, isn't he?
Well,
Eh?
the Romans have
Oh!
conquered everything else. Might as well conquer the center of the earth, I guess.
Wow, didn't take him long to come back out the other end. Wow. The speed of light there.
Epic slow-mo.
Where did the music went? Again.
This is one of those Asterix films that looked like it was made the most on drugs.
Yeah. I mean, it was even in the Cleopatra one we had signals of the drugs, but that movie still applied restraint. This movie is clearly Asterix unrestrained.
Also,
And he died.
he's fine now.
Oh.
What the fuck is going on? I just.
Sure.
You can also tell because the segment is, drawn out.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot, did he just blow up?
Well, we just killed someone, but that's okay. He's part of an evil conqueror.
Oh, he's fine. Just
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, it's again, it's like in George in the Jungle. Don't worry, nobody dies in this story. They just get really big boo-boos. There you go, a giant Roman. Now we can easily take over the village.
I'm sure someone is very happy about this.
Well, Julius Caesar.
Teo. Caesar, the village of the gods has been conquered. Oh, really? How? A Roman turned giant and killed everybody. Oh. How random.
But alas,
But I'll take it, I guess.
Also, I'm not too surprised by the music going. The music tends to go every now and then in Asterix movies.
I know it's a more of a general thing, but I honestly don't understand even when it happened previously. Like
I know it happened in 12 Tasks of Asterix. It definitely happened in
in the Cleopatra movie.
yeah,
and
the Cleopatra movie.
Oh, look, it's raining Romans.
Hallelujah.
it's raining Romans. Hallelujah. It's raining Romans.
So, animators, was it good?
Are you done?
Was it good? I hope it was.
Are you off your drugs yet?
No, he's still fine. We
He's
just
ended up in the...
teleported him.
Wait, is he on
and now he's
Mars?
on Mars? Seriously, what the hell?
What? Can we go 1 month without watching a movie set on Mars?
Eh,
I guess Mars is the #1 tourist attraction in the Hollywood land, Wibs.
No, I think 2011 and 2012 killed that stone. Actually, no, The Martian came out, so...
What the?
oh, we're in
is going
Oh
on?
no,
Beetlejuice.
it's the Alaskan
Oh, he got
bullworm!
mesmerized. There you go.
It's the Alaskan bullworm from SpongeBob.
No, it's not worm. Just the mouth.
Just his tongue.
I
This
get that.
poor...
I get that the.
Oh.
Look,
Again,
I-
Oh,
it's
wait,
what we
never
know-
mind.
It was miniaturized, like he
Yeah.
said. It's what we mentioned also in the previous other movies. It's pretty much clear that the animators realize that adapting for like an hour plus the books, unless they actually draw out the single segments, will not have worked. So they had to come up with filming
Yeah.
material.
This is why This is why Eclipse did a better job with the Tintin franchise, where adapting them in each book into 40-minute episodes was a far better decision.
Yes, I see you can use a voice
that
filter.
Became engine.
But that's the thing, Tail. Like, Alexander and Louis proved that with their Mention of the Gods movie, that you can take one book and extend it into 90 minutes if you know what you're doing.
Wait,
so
wait,
it's
wait,
not like
wait,
this
wait.
thing is impossible.
I thought Mansion of the Gods was its own original thing.
No,
No, it's
Secret
based
of
on the
Magic
book.
Potion is.
It's based on the book, actually. It's Secret of the Magic Potion. That's an original story.
But yeah, no, I have to agree. Like, well, no, you can still stretch out one of these things to make a movie just fine. And again, I will say this about the movie: it's had its trippy sequences, but I don't feel like it's egregiously done anything wrong. Like, it basically is all these weird and wacky hijinks tethered together in a story meant to entertain you, which that's usually what Asterix is at its core. So, again, it is nowhere near the best of these movies, but I think it's fine so far.
I would be fine with them using some of this stuff if they also included a lot of the verbal humor that the books are known for, because a lot of the more verbal satirical humor that the books excel at is not really in here.
I'd say it is in there, but okay, one thing that's consistent about these movies is, well, their animation. Animators tend to flex more with, again, the movements, as opposed to just the verbal tics in that regard. Not to say that, they don't include them. They obviously do, but there's definitely a lot of focus there. It's something that you notice in a lot of, comics that literally get adapted into, like, animated movies or whatnot. Like, okay, see, with comics, we get it in panels, so obviously we can just skip from the most important bits to bits. But with animation, you gotta show stuff in between. Like, for example, in a Garfield comic, there's a dance sequence which is basically just, like, 4 panels. Sure, that works for the comic. But for the movie, it needs to actually be kind of a song and dance, since, the characters are singing and dancing in the comic, but for obvious reasons, the comic doesn't have to show all of it. So,
But true, Peanuts told me that you can just repeat the same 4 frames of dancing and you will be good to go.
maybe in, like, back when animation was seen as practically magic. Nowadays, though, that's only for, like, if you're literally taking the piss out of that kind of tactic.
Yeah, that's the main reason why something like Gertie the dinosaur is only used in animation classes for the sake of history purposes. In terms of an actual thing you watch, it's not really. There's nothing there. It's just a dinosaur walking. It's like the first ever movie by the Lumiere brothers, Train Arrives at a Station. It's important for historical reasons, but it's not really something that you just watch for entertainment, because it's literally just a train arriving at a station. There's literally nothing to it.
Like, as sad as it may...
Like Shoba just said, back then films were considered, oh, this is like a magic and shit. But nowadays, yeah, it's not really impressive anymore.
Like, as sad as it may be, a lot of times the very first example of something is often not its best. Sure, it is definitely, in many ways, very important, if not the most important one.
And now the village blames Asterix because they believe he actually chased away the soothsayer.
Oh boy, my favourite trope. The misunderstanding that causes everybody to hate the hero.
Is this
Also,
how it...
Yeah, I don't understand this either. The Centurion pun name is that it's called Bossa Nova, but that's a Brazilian term for a music style.
Yep.
Also, buongiorno.
Means good morning, Lives.
I thought that was good evening.
No, that's buonasera.
Yeah, if they made a Western, it's Western made anyway, but if they made like an English language film of Asterix from the ground up as opposed to just dubbing a French one, I could imagine they just have the Romans speak Italian to each other with subtitles.
Funny, Dave. So you're basically describing what Mel Gibson did when he made the Passion of the Christ, where the Roman speaks exclusively in Latin. It's even a plot point because Gibson thinking he was so clever, made the interrogation with Pilatus starting in Hebrew, but when Jesus starts speaking in Latin. Funny.
That being said, I actually do like this part of the book where now he's actually tricking the Romans into things. So at least now he's doing it to the bad guys. So I'm arguing here it's fine. I mean, the Romans being incredibly
Superstition is a thing we noticed in the past, yes.
Like, the Romans legit thought that they were descended from God, so yeah, they were definitely into that mythology stuff.
That's a slightly not how it's pronounced, but sure.
I mean, if anything, you should say magnifique, maybe, because it's a French property.
No,
but at the
we
same
were trying
time-
to use the Italian term, it's just that the G and N should be pronounced the same way you pronounce piranha.
Yeah, I noticed that. The way they say it sounded more like the Spanish word rather than the Italian version. That's the thing. I get the feeling the voice actor playing the Centurion is trying to sound like the Godfather.
Let me check.
Yeah, he's definitely going for a Godfather type voice.
Ed Gilbert. Let me check. He died in 1999. He was in one episode of the Wonder Woman 70 series. Drova.
Yes?
He was Blitzwing in Transformers cartoon.
Oh, nice.
Also General Hawk in G.I. Joe. Dr. Jackie
Yeah,
Scooby-Doo and Rackham.
I think by this point it's pretty safe for me to say this. Yeah, I can definitely tell you that I genuinely think the book is much better than this adaptation.
His last role was one of the characters from Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Ah, okay.
Also, Pedro, apparently he was a character called Professor Heine in the Freakazoid series.
Okay.
For a second, I thought he said this is for real, and I was like, wait,
thing is
when did
that,
the
again,
Fight get in here?
Wait,
As
is the Centurion a robot? You just opened up a little mini door to put the coin in, like...
Gotta put the coin
that's usually
somewhere.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we usually see in cartoon robots do. Like,
Yeah, the chest plate should be a one-piece kind of deal in terms
yeah,
of
I'm pretty
armor.
okay. I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty confident Roman armorers didn't have little mini compartments to put money in.
Watches Diversity makes 5 different videos about the matter.
Well, then they have pockets.
Well, they have pockets, but they don't have little mini compartments in the
Not
chest
really.
part of the armor.
Back then,
maybe?
rather than having pockets in clothes, people prefer to use satchels that they
Yeah, I
tie
guess,
around their
yeah.
waist.
So you can
I mean, think about it, guys. Can you imagine a soldier in the middle of a warfield finding a penny, and he opens up a little mini door in his arm, in his armor or military garb or whatever he has to put the coin in. Like,
I'm guessing that's like a little funny bit that they did.
Yeah.
I can see what they're going for. I just think it's a bit.
Also, what happened to the eyes?
Well, Theo, considering how many drugs are in this movie, maybe I forgot her English name. Maybe Yellow Submarine took a few.
I guess.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Wait.
Give me direction, please.
Wait,
Someone give me
wait.
direction.
Did he say your Willies is doomed?
No, you're village.
No, the village is doomed.
Still, also, look
Sound like
at
he
how,
said Willies.
look at how damn foreboding the skybox is.
To be fair, that's kind of the point. He's supposedly roguing a curse on them, so you're supposed to be scared right now. So this in here it does fit.
Aside from the animation, since we're past the halfway point, well, like we're 2/3 of the way through it now, I I'll be honest, I'm not really feeling this movie animation
No,
aside.
It's not great, no.
I'm not really finding anything particularly wrong about it, but I'm not really finding anything particularly exceptional about it either.
To me, as its best showcase, this feels a movie for people who don't like mostly the comedy. Like, it's still present, but it's more in a much more subdued or trippy potentially way, but it's way different from the comic. And generally, the story takes itself very seriously.
Don't get me wrong. The Big Fight book is not amazing or anything, but it definitely had more comedy than this. It was better paced. It had a better understanding of what it was doing.
And let me put it this way, because we have seen previous example, like the Cleopatra movie, for example. The franchise still tells a serious story where there are stakes and everything, but they actually managed to balance out with their tone. So you can still believe the serious situation despite the fact that it might be treated in a more of a goofy manner. But this is like the new 52 version of Asterix.
Okay, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration.
Look, just because it's not super edgy, Jova, that doesn't remove all the other aspects.
I mean, again, Asterix versus Caesar, that I get. Absolutely dark tone. Here, the tone doesn't ever feel like it gets
more dark, depressing. I
don't know if I go depressing. It's more so that the tone feels
heavy,
weird. Like, I can't quite get a good placement. Like, because sometimes it feels like they want to be funny with the various things, but at the same time, the movie's trying to be both.
And he ruined that dark tone by.
Yeah, what was just said. The movie tries to.
And now you're sad.
The movie's trying to have it both ways, but the problem is that it doesn't. It's trying to be a jack of both trades, but a master of none.
I mean, I feel like it's executing things relatively fine. Again, though, I'm not gonna act like it's amazing either. I think the way I feel about this movie is probably the way you feel about the comic. It's fine, but not exceptional. The best thing about it is the animation.
My other question, other than, that surrounds this product in particular, not necessarily the original story, think back on what we commented previously and, the general sense of the adaptations. Considering how little of the stories have been adapted and the vast range pool, why adapting this one? That's also my question.
We will have to ask the French animators over there why.
Yeah, the director and producers and the other.
No. Okay.
I said
I can literally think another dozen of stories that could have been adapted better.
I wonder if they essentially went with the dartboard method, where it was just a random pick. Like, okay. Asterix the Gaul, I get that. First one, Asterix and Cleopatra. Yeah, one of the most famous stories. Made sense that was second. The third one was, I believe, 12 tasks.
So they did an original project just for the fun of it.
Which, you know what? Honestly, I'll say this. I think 12 tasks might still so far be my...
I don't have a problem with that.
I think 12 tasks might still actually be my favorite of these movies.
Sure. Like I said, I have always wanted an animated adaptation of the Asterix at the Olympics, because that's one of my personal favorite books.
Anyway, the fourth movie was Asterix versus Caesar, which was the first time they tried merging multiple stories into one. Did not like that one, but I can get why they were trying to do it. Also, they were going for the different era, bringing in new characters and whatnot. Asterix in Britain, it's a perfectly fine story. I guess they just wanted to do that. Yeah, I guess a lot of these okay, so when it comes to the first four movies, I can definitely see a rhyme or reason with the experimentation or planning there. Asterix in Britain might have been just, again, they threw a dart at a board. Oh, we'll do Asterix in Britain. And same thing with Asterix and the Big Fight, except the dart landed right smack dab in the middle between Big Fight and the Soothsayer.
That would be interesting.
Well, so I guess the Romans have finally managed to conquer Gaul.
by doing almost absolutely nothing, like Luigi Mario Party.
That's the genius
Well,
of it, and they're both Italian.
Well, Teo, if there's one thing I've come to accept about the Asterix series, that the Romans will, if the Romans will never be able to take down Asterix's village on the by their own skills. Clearly,
They came close in Mansion
Also,
of the
that poor guy
Gods.
still floating.
I'm surprised Caesar is not so far involved in this movie.
no.
Again, a lot of those stories, in all those stories, he doesn't even show up at all.
Which I
In the
guess kind
original-
of makes sense, is because he's supposed to be the big foreboding.
Yeah, he's
big
busy
bad.
doing politics somewhere else.
In the original comic, Caesar is not in it either. It's there is a point where this centurion, with your help, fortune teller, I can eventually become the new Caesar.
Again,
and shit.
the usual drama, the fact that the Centurions wanted to scale the ranks.
Every single Roman is a fucking traitor to their emperor. Like,
Just
Again,
watch
they're
out
supposed to
for.
be a parody of the Nazis, so yeah.
yeah, no wonder this empire collapsed. Oh yeah, this bit. I forgot to talk about this bit. There's actually a rule of the Romans where they need to arrest every single soothsayers because Caesar hates soothsayers apparently.
Like, despite that's mostly because of exactly what this guy is doing. A lot of the soothsayers are actually cons, so Caesar doesn't really want them to pester everyone else around.
Smart guy.
Pragmatic.
I mean, it's a bit of an overreaction to have them all arrested, but I can see his
Romans
reasoning.
were not really subtle in what they did.
Oh yeah, this part. Allow me. In the original book, what happens is around this point in the story, Getafix returns from his absence. And what happens is he creates a little concoction that creates this abhorrent odor in the village to force the Romans to flee. In this version,
He just creates it accidentally.
he created yeah, I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna on Taylor's camp with that one. Yeah, like why remove Getafix's smartness from the equation? I don't know. That's
So
just
it's
This
funny
is
seeing him prancing around.
This is a byproduct of them trying to merge the two stories, it seems. Because,
I guess.
remember, from one side of the adaptation, he's again out of his mind, so yeah, it would be
Yeah.
accidental. Although they arguably could have had him snap out of it by that point. Wow. Defeated by chemical warfare.
Literally.
literally, yeah.
Also, what are they calling him?
Yeah, for
Vitamix.
some reason, I get
Vitamix.
I get the idea. It might be just the dubbing company doing
Yeah.
this.
I'm
drawing,
gonna. Yeah,
Although,
yeah, I'm just gonna
although,
stick-
although that
Go on.
begs the question: why didn't, the people on the other end keep them on the straight and narrow, like with the other dubs? Because
I haven't listened to the British dub, so I don't know if they do that the same here or
yeah,
not.
I'll take a look at the British dub later.
Also, CGI
yeah, I'm
is
just gonna-
woke.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with Getafix if that's okay with everybody.
I mean, I'm more used to the original name to begin with. That's
Oh, yeah.
shit the root.
Well, yeah, Teo, but like we've already explained, puns
Yeah,
in
yeah, I
French
know,
will
I
not work
know.
in English. So
And Asterix is fucking dead. Like, at this point, the only thing that's missing is for Obelix also to die. Can we get a bit of levity, movie? I get it. Like, there's a Darkest Hour, and then there's milking the dark cow.
I
just wish.
never really
on.
thought he was dead from that.
No, I know it's not. Like, again, at the end of the day, this is this kind of franchise where things will turn out better. At the end, this is using the Don Bluth method of, as long as it has an happy ending, you can do whatever you want. But, jeez.
I just wish there was more comedy in it because while there is comedy in it, like it's not enough. Like I wanted the movie to be a bit more silly, like embrace the silliness of the franchise.
I feel like this movie does do that. It's just that it also has some serious bouts here, like, and I can see what they're trying to go for again. I can definitely get how this is one of the lesser movies, but I don't find it actively bad like with Asterix versus Caesar.
And yes, just by accidentally ingesting some of that weird potion, Getafix manages to finally come back to his senses.
He cured himself. Also, again, like, they're definitely making good use of that orchestra with how grandiose this
Actually,
music
we haven't
is.
talked about who the composer is. Let me check.
Oh yeah, like
God,
seriously,
again?
seriously, movie. Are you fucking kidding me?
Okay, granted, was that how it goes in the comics, too?
I don't remember.
No. Jova. The whole thing about Getafix getting hit by Meniers is not in the comic. This is entirely the movie.
Anyway, the composer is Michel Colombier. Let me see.
Oh,
He's fine this time.
At least this one didn't make him crazy, I guess. So.
Once again, this guy is more of a French composer more than anything.
Sure. Well,
actually, no,
it gets better, Jova, when we get to the CGI movie. We have the fucking London Symphony Orchestra doing the music.
Dave,
Yes, Tim?
this guy composed for Guy Ritchie's Swept Away movie from 2002. That was his last composing role.
Huh.
So his last composing role was Guy Ritchie showing off his then wife's acting talents.
Sure.
Madonna, by the way.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ha ha! Women, am I right? Ha ha ha!
Thankfully, there was not an adaptation. I haven't read it in a very long time, but I do know that one of the comics from the early 90s actually is particularly guilty of that, but that was never adapted.
Goscinny, for as good of a writer Goscinny was, he was definitely a man of his time. And it comes with the bad things of that time as well.
I'm still weirded out that they kept some of those things in the CGI movies, but that's another story.
Again,
You
will see eventually for the Secret of Magic Potion.
That's the thing, Jova. Like the Secret of the Magic Potion really goes out of its way to literally tear down.
I'm referring to Mansion. I'm referring to Mansion of the Gods. I haven't seen Secret of the Magic Potion yet.
Well, I mean, what does Mansion of the Gods do in particular that is...
They kept some of the iffy racist designs.
That is a problem. Yeah.
And some of the comedy was a bit women, am I right, too, with the whole gal pal thing. Again.
I guess. I think you'll like, in that case, I think you'll like what they do with the Secret Magic Potion then.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I still liked Mansion of the Gods. It's definitely one of my top favorite Asterix movies. Like, let's see, I think my favorites are, so far again, 12 Tasks of Asterix, Asterix Conquers America, and Mansion of the Gods. I haven't seen the Vikings movie yet, so I don't know how that'll turn out.
That and the American one are the only one left, Jova, before Secret of the Magic Potion anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually we'll get to the live action ones, but after the animated ones.
I forgot to mention, Jova. Guess what? This story was also included in the first live-action movie, by the way, because the first live-action movie, for some reason, tries to combine like 3 or 4 stories into one.
Interesting.
I take it you're not a fan of those live-action ones.
Well, I think the Cleopatra one is probably the most savageable. But
okay. From what I've seen, reception to those movies seems to be well regarded by fans of the series.
Yeah,
so.
It is. I mean, they're making a new one for fuck's sake. So yeah.
Well, again, it's similar to a lot of French filmmaking. They're cheap and easy to produce.
Fun fact: the guy who played Asterix in the first couple live-action movies went on to become the lead writer and director of the CGI movies.
Huh.
And now
Cute.
he's also the voice actor of Asterix, as we noted.
Teh. Okay, he actually got that
Of
right.
course.
In a sense.
Oh, so now he wants to marry Cleopatra as well, of course.
I mean, her nose
Well,
was really beautiful.
Remember, he
apparently.
did say he wants to be Caesar. Guess he meant it in all ways.
Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, we checked that it's not him because he did check for his career, his filmography. But Getafix voice actor sounds a bit like Professor Finkelstein's voice actor from Nightmare Before Christmas. So yeah, finally, in its last couple of decades of minutes, finally the village manages to turn itself around.
Yeah, this is something that in the book, what happens is both Asterix and Getafix that trick the Prolix into confessing that he's a phony. And everybody hears him, and yeah.
I like how the Roman's like, you know what? You can have him.
Yeah, well, there's a line in the book that I love where she beats the crap out of him, and the centurion's like "Bravo, senora."
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's fun. See, I wanted more of that, more of this.
Jesus, what's with these shots where the character's eye become overly animated?
Yeah, I wanted more of this, more fun cartoon violence.
That reminds me, it kind of reminds me of the tweet that Deji posted at some point, which is the whole, in the 60s you had a show called Surfing Dracula, and the motherfucker will do that once.
I'll be honest.
But these days, it will be just the entire first season about self-deprecation, only in the last 5 minutes of the last episode he does surfing.
I'll be honest. When I was younger and people were saying Julius Caesar invaded Britain, I always thought in my head that's how it went. Just one crazy person running up on his own, repelling the army with just a sword and going, ah!
That's gonna leave a mark.
You know, another question, Terry. Have you ever read the book where Asterix and Obelix are trying to steal Caesar's crown? The whole
The DeLorean, yes.
The green thing. Yeah, that's one that I also would love to get adapted as well because I love that one too.
Again, there are countless. Again, like my favorite being the one of the Goths, for example, or the one of the Golden Sequel. You know, stuff like that.
In the meantime, this diplomat is coming. What's the proper name for these people too?
I think it will be. They introduced the character properly anyway.
I remember they had some kind. I remember they had some kind of name, like the superintendent or something like that.
Well, Bossa Nova, I made it despite your directions.
Oh boy.
That poor guy is still floating.
Oh, yeah, for those who forgot, the centurion sent a message to Rome saying all of Gaul is occupied. All of it? All of it. So this guy came here to check if that's true, and yeah.
Predictable results.
Somebody at Rome is going to get mad.
Ooh.
Why did they hit a siege tower there?
Alea Jacta Est.
They did not really need it. Like,
Oh wait, I think that was the siege tower from the Romans fortress, actually. So that was
oh
already
yeah,
there.
it was. But like I said, the village wasn't really that tall in terms of barricade. We didn't really need it.
They were probably building it up
Like
to use it
catapult,
later
yes,
on.
definitely. But
And yeah, trying to escape amidst the confusion, of course. There you go.
and by the way, I will say this, Drova, to keep putting into perspective. At the very least, in this adaptation, the soothsayer gets a comeuppance by getting Menhir in the face. In the book, he gets away with it.
What?
He
Okay.
actually manages to go away with all the chaos and confusion with no scratches.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll take this over that.
So at the very least, I commend the animators for the director and everything for at least having at least this.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely needed comeuppance.
Why the sad piano music?
Again, the composer just decided to have fun. I don't know.
It's like I'm watching the second Peter Cushing Dalek movie, but that has unfitting music.
All right, Laugh. I remember Laugh.
Yeah.
There you go.
So let me guess, he's fired.
No,
I mean,
demoted.
demoted as a
Demoted.
simple legionnaire.
He's a legionnaire, as in he's now just a common soldier.
Which he is now.
Yeah, he is.
How the turns have tabled.
To be fair, that's still a better joke than what they do in the book, where in the book they just say, "Oh, I don't want any civilians in my camp."
Yeah, this
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
definitely ends off on a better tone than Asterix vs. Caesar
Yeah, I
as
will
well.
give it that. It does have it does have a better ending than the
I
book.
still
will
don't
give it that.
understand why the skybox need to be still this gloomy.
And
I have
guess
to
that
go
will-
now. My
oh,
planet
my
needs me.
Yeah,
Remember
clearly.
the floating potion.
You know, some people still say that he's still flying around to this very day.
Icarus?
Skeleton.
At least he became one with the owl as the best friends, I suppose.
His character arc is complete. He's probably gonna die when he hits the stratosphere, but it is what it is.
Is that why those fizzy lifting drinks from Wonka never made it to market?
Yes. And of course, we're gonna need to have this.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, he will not.
Oh.
Now let's get jiggy with it.
Yeah, I have no idea why this song is again 80s, I guess, but
80s
fair,
slash
Teo,
90s.
To be fair,
and there we go.
To be fair, Teo, Secret of the Magic Potion has the worldwide round song in it. So this is kind of tradition with the Asterix movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's over, no post-credit scene, so final thoughts.
That was not as bad as I was expecting it to be.
I wasn't really feeling this one, to be honest.
Well, who wants to start anyway?
Dwibs?
I'll be quick. Yeah, I didn't really like this one that much, to be honest. The tone is all over the place. The music half the time doesn't even fit with what's going on screen. The animation's the best part of the movie. I'll give it that. And the voice acting is okay-ish. But again, it's so weird. The funny bits feel like they should be not funny, and the not funny bits feel like they should be funny. Not to mention all the bits where the filmmakers were on acid, doing all this weird loud stuff because apparently being weird and loud is funny. It's like I'm watching one of those bad YouTube comedy videos from the late 2000s.
Like I said, Reeves, this is basically a remnant of the dark age of animations. A lot of movies wanted to experiment with a spin of a musical formula where it's just music with a lot of trippy sequences, like the Yellow Submarine or the Thief and the Cobbler.
I guess that's why they call it the Dark Ages.
For multiple reasons, but yes, it was one of them.
But yeah, I wasn't really feeling this one. Who knows? Maybe the next Asterix movie we do will be better.
It will.
Oh yeah, like I mean, Conquers America, great film, and again, now if the next thing we do is the Vikings, I don't know. I can't speak for that. Same with Secret of the Magic Potion.
Because I never saw the English dubs.
Oh, honestly, I thought the voice acting has been...
I'm sure it's, considering they're more modern, I'm guessing they will be better anyway.
I feel like the voice acting has been at worst just fine for these dubs. Taking into mind, obviously, the standards of each era voice acting.
You done?
Yeah, that's it. Yep, I'm done.
Jova.
Okay. I feel like this is a fine movie. I did not hate it, but I didn't necessarily overly enjoy it. That said, I feel like this still has what an Asterix movie needs to have. It's just that it had a few issues. One, it wasn't exactly adapting the best material to begin with, although it sounds like they improved it in some areas, so good on them for giving one of the big bads his actual comeuppance instead of letting him get off scot-free for it. Like, no, look, as much as I put up with this movie... If the bad guy had gotten away with it scot-free, that would have docked this movie quite a few points for me. Now, the ideas of the conflict, the goals turning on each other like that, is an interesting one. One that we'll see again in Mansion of the Gods. To an extent, mind you. So, but yeah, no. I feel like the conflict is fine enough for this movie. I do definitely get a kick out of the animation. That is, like, probably the most consistently amazing thing about this movie is just how much the animation soars. The music is also pretty good. Like, they are using a full-blown orchestra for this one, and I can tell. I also do like how they got some pretty good voice actors who fit well for the voice roles in this movie. Also, while this movie also kind of introduces relatively new characters, if I recall correctly, at least here, the newer characters, even if obviously some are drawn to look more, hot than sexy, they still feel like they fit better than, like, the two sexy goals from Asterix vs. Caesar, Panacea and, what's his name? The point is, like, well, I feel like, obviously, the more sexier designs at least still fit in with this one. Helps that they're animated in a way to emphasize just how bubbly and bouncy they can be. All joking aside, though, the characters for the most part seem like they're fine and in character. I can totally buy that most of the goals would fall for this except for Asterix, Obelix, Dogmatix, and Getafix. Getafix is a bit out of his mind here and there, so yeah, there's that. This movie evens out to me as, again, just fine. I don't find it egregiously bad. It definitely has blemishes and warts, I will say this, but it didn't, like, leave me in, like, a feeling of absolute despair at times like Asterix vs. Caesar did. Like, Asterix vs. Caesar literally had a rape attempt, followed up by comedy and hijinks, and that just did not fit. Again, unless that was also a thing from the book, the rape attempt.
I don't remember it being there,
No,
but I'll have to look it
I
up.
can tell you that, again, what happened to Panacea and her lover in the Expedition Legionnaire? They just get captured by the rival army, and we only get to see them when they actually get rescued.
The rape
Okay,
attempt
then.
was just a means, I guess, to have them escape, which was pointless since they got captured again later anyway. Like, no, Asterix versus Caesar, to me, is still the lowest point of these films, because that movie can just get dark and depressing for the sake of it. It literally ends on a sad note with Asterix pining for Panacea, out of nowhere, mind you, because that was mainly Obelix's thing for most of the film.
That one actually was in the book for some reason. I don't understand it either,
that
to be
was a
honest.
thing in the book.
Especially
Oof.
because it's never followed up. So
Yeah.
it's just there for comedy, because getting Obelix actually was infatuated for most of the movie, and Asterix was the voice of reason, but in the end, he's not that much better. Thanks.
Yeah, no, like, that just does not sit well with me. And yeah, that was a thing from the book. I still think that's kind of out of character for flipping Asterix, since, as far as, again, from the movies I've seen, maybe it happens more in the books, but as far as the movies go, he's not infallible to doing some rash stuff, but it's not like, you know, he's like a sucker like that in that regard. No. But yeah, no, this movie is fine. It does have the laughs that can keep me entertained enough, and I'm fine with some of the more serious stuff, since again, it never feels like it veers into heart-wrenchingly terrifying or sad or whatnot. I feel like the tone is a bit heavier, but I feel like it balances out. But again, at the end of the day, that's this movie. It's balanced and fine, but like, to a point. Like, let me put it like this. Any more of the bad, and I would have definitely have had to call this one bad. Like, it's just fine. As in, like, boy, this was definitely a movie that showed their animation budget in the day and showed that, yeah, they've still got it in that. Look forward to the next Asterix movie. Thank you very much. Which is what I'll probably do as well. Because again, we're either doing America, Vikings, or Secret of the Magic Potion, which, again, aside from Vikings, I've got a good feeling about. And that's only because I legit have no idea what's the plot with Vikings.
You'll see.
Yep. See, speaking as someone who actually does not really mind the book that much, this is a really bad adaptation for the most part. Not like we've talked about. The ending is better. I will concede that. But even by the standards of the book, this movie completely screws up so many things. Like, for us, you know, even though the original book wasn't amazing or great or anything, it was still, in my opinion, at least fine as an interesting concept for an Asterix story. If anything, at the very least, even if you don't like the concept, at least the execution was definitely better than this movie. It flowed better. It didn't waste our time with pointless detours. And it had more, I can tell this, it had more comedy than this adaptation did. It had a lot more silly stuff to it and shit like that. So yeah, like as an adaptation, yeah, it kind of misses the mark. Yeah, the ending is better, but by that point, it's too little, too late, in terms of calling this a good adaptation. Even on its own, it's just like so much of this stuff like feels so pointless, and it's just like all the drug hallucinative trippy shit that just feels so it's literally that one major drug hallucination moment from the Cleopatra movie, but turned it up to 11. Like, and it really is weird because, like we've discussed, I mean, Alexander Astier and Louis Clichy proved that you can take one of these books and extend it into a 90-minute movie if you know what you're doing. But these filmmakers, nah, they couldn't quite really pull it off. Like I said
Weren't these
before,
the same filmmakers from a previous movie, or are these like just
No.
one and done filmmakers for this movie?
They seem to be just one and done.
It feels like there's a constant passing of the torch with who makes an Asterix
The only thing that
movie.
seems to be consistent a bit is how some traces of the animation are prevalent if a movie was released previously. And in this case, you can see while the animation is evolved, it's still very similar to the one of versus Caesar.
It kind of makes the Asterix films feel a bit like the MCU of their time, in the sense where you had relatively loosely connected films, where each one could be seen as a rite of passage for a filmmaker to see if they could make it or not, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as an adaptation, it's not really good. As a movie on its own, it's not very good either. It has really good animation, but the story flows pretty badly, and the overall tone is like, this movie is so confused. What the hell? Like it wants to do tone wise. Like it's not funny enough to be funny, but it's not. But even when it's trying to be quote unquote dramatic, it doesn't really have the writing substance to back that up. As a result, we have this movie that feels very confused to what exactly is it trying to do. Like we said, like by the time we get to the final 10 minutes or so, things start picking up. We actually get some more funny stuff. And like I said, the ending is better. But by that point, it's too little too late. Like, it's not really worth the full 70-minute stuff that we have to put with just to get there. So yeah, it's not very good. No, it's not the worst. Like we said, versus Caesar is still worse. But yeah, this one is definitely disappointing. And again, I'm speaking as someone who actually doesn't even mind the book that much, to be honest with you. Like I'll still take that book over the Falling Sky book, for example.
Okay, what's the story with the fall? Okay. In terms of like badness,
Two different species of aliens arrive casually in the village and start competing with each other in a similar way to what the Great Gazoo will do in the Flintstones by conjuring up weird pop cultural concepts.
I could.
That's the best way. That's the way I can describe it to you, Jova. But that's giving the story a favor, because it's much worse. Whatever you're expecting, it's much worse than that.
So let me guess. It was the series jumping the shark point.
Yeah, it's literally jumping the shark. It's literally
for the standard of this franchise, mind you, that means a lot.
It's the Land Before. Remind me, Jova. What's the Land Before Time movie that has the aliens? It's number 10, right?
No, I think that was 7.
That's it. It's the Land Before Time 7 moment of Asterix, Jova.
Aliens.
Anyway, yeah, not very good. And again, like I said, as an adaptation, this is like, the book was already not exactly has the best reputation in general, even though I personally don't think it's all that bad. But like, yeah, like in terms of this definitely does not help the book's reputation because it's a terrible adaptation. Anyway, close us off too.
Okay, the best way I can describe this is that what if Don Bluth made an Asterix movie? And I would wonder if they actually got inspired by that, because this was 1989, and this was way after Secret of Nim, and I think it was after An American Tale at the very least. What year was it?
No, American Tail was in 1986, and this is 1989. So this was
so this was done afterward. Like I said, I do wonder if the makers of this were actually inspired by Don Bluth's work and wanted to make something.
This was the same year. This was the same year as All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Mm-hmm. Well, this does have a big lead navigator moment, technically, but
plenty of them actually.
Okay, I don't think the only one that really qualifies for that is the different transformations of a Roman. They could have easily just go from point A to point B and say, "Oh, the potion doesn't work and it floats," but they wanted to go the extra bit of the different effects. But let me get in order. Like, I get what they were trying to do, but the story already is heavy on its own. Like I said, it's not the worst Asterix book at all. But it's the biggest things to me are two Ds. It's too depressing and too draining. I think that's the concept that Pedro was actually getting also before in his final thoughts. The overall tone dissonance, atmosphere of the movie, the oppressive color palette that is especially prevalent in the climax, makes this such a draining experience. It sucks away most of the joy that even in the moments that are supposed to be of more comedy and wacky, you almost feel like panting Like, sure, you can argue that versus Caesar has potentially more darker moments like the rape attempt or how for the weird shit that happens during the climax. But I think this also has its own personal elements to put it on the same level just for different reasons when it comes to the adaptations. Like the Soothsayer to this day remains my least favorite character in all of these adaptations. Let me tell you, because Pedro is my witness of that. I did talk to him about this when the Secret of the Magic Potion was announced. And in the posters and the trailer, there was a character that conspicuously looked like the guy. I was dreading what was going on, but thank God they
No,
did.
it's actually an
It's
original
a completely
character.
new original character, and it's a much better, much better take on this. Again, the positive that I will give to this adaptation is the fact that he gets his comeuppance. So thank God you don't know how much stingy I am when villains don't get what they deserve. And the fact that the animation loves to trip itself occasionally, which is again good to appreciate on an artistic value. But as a story, I'm sorry, this ain't Asterix to me. This is just excessively depressing and a concept executed very badly to the idea. And also a thing that he has in common with versus Caesar, the entire climax is resolved via Deus Ex Machina. In versus Caesar is Dogmatix arriving conveniently from the sewers with the magic potion that they need for the Colosseum. In this is Getafix accidentally ingesting some of the stuff that he cooked. For all the paragon that he has been of representing the voice of reason, Asterix fails at the end. And if it wasn't for that accident, everybody, the Romans would have conquered everything and he would have lost.
Actually, now that you mention it, I actually kind of like that, actually. That, for once, Asterix doesn't actually just solve it right here and there. I guess my thoughts on it are similar to how you kind of feel about Kingdom Hearts 3D, in that, for once, the main protagonist is not the one who solve it all. And yeah, I can totally buy that the Gauls win just based off of dumb luck, because, well, let's be honest, having a magic potion that pretty much boosts steroids, yeah, that's kind of some great luck and cheating that they've had.
I also had to tell you, Joe, that you kind of got mostly on a sort of a bad side, because Asterix being a jerk is only reserved for just a few stories, and for some reason, a lot of these were the ones that got adapted. So I can tell you that in the books, the character is also better than this.
Oh, I can agree. Okay, I can agree. And
honestly, what you said probably would have worked if Asterix had been a jerk all the time. But all of this time, he might have started snarking but that's probably because he had trust in the village and he was just wanting to have a laugh. But as soon as he realized that the others were actually falling for what the soothsayer was saying, he immediately went like, guys, what the fuck are you doing? And this basically escalated the animosity between the two parties.
Okay. If it's any consolation, I have not found him to be too much of a jerk overall in the movies. The only time when maybe it's gotten on my nerves was Asterix the Gaul, which, early installment weirdness, and kind of Asterix versus Caesar. But as we've established, that movie as a whole is just kind of a what were they thinking about.
The reason why I applied my thought that you mentioned to that specific character is mostly because said character is instead presented in, an excessive amount of joy to the point of stupidity, rather than being potentially a jerk about it, Like, it's more of a case of two weights to measure, and I want to reserve a better talk about it if we ever get to that point.
If anything, this harkens back to what I liked about Mansion of the Gods that actually showed about of them struggling. It's not that I find Asterix a jerk, it's just, I do like it when the Gauls actually get some challenge. And yes, I get it. First and foremost, this is a comedy. But just because something's a comedy doesn't mean you can't still have your heavier moments here and there where there is some form of challenge. Where,
as I mentioned to Pedro before, to me is the execution, and as we mentioned, Mansion of the Gods execute these much better anyway.
And trust me, Jova, like what Theo just said, and trust me, in that case, you're in for a treat with Secret of Magic Potion. I literally cannot think of how you make a better Asterix movie than Secret of the Magic Potion. If you ask me, how do you make a better Asterix movie than Secret of Magic Potion, I wouldn't be able to give you an answer. Because to me, that's the perfect Asterix movie. It has everything.
I guess
everything.
to give 12 Tasks credit, one could argue that was definitely some of their toughest bouts, because up until the 12th challenge, God, the stuff Caesar put them through was kind of masterful in its torture, especially the bureaucracy office. That was just pure
Yeah.
evil.
The Permit A38. But anyway, like again, you were fan of, or if you also were a fan of Getafix, or you read the Big Fight book, where his madness and dementia are treated more for comedy. Tough shit too. Sure, it's treated also for comedy here to an extent, but at least to me, it's more also depressing to see a character like Getafix portraying a challenge for his characterization this way. And again, also this is a problem that also was in the book. The thing that these adaptations and the books constantly get, one of the sources of conflict is the idea that the gods never learn to actually have at least Asterix and Obelix escort Getafix going through, because this shit keeps happening. It's a movie that is competently made, on a presentation level, but for story wise, it's definitely at least one of the two conjoined with versus Caesar. Then I definitely don't like revisiting most of the time. Again, there are much better stories to see and also to read, which also led also to my general questioning on why was the story adapted in the first place. But again, in my thinking that they wanted to emulate Don Bluth is real, I kind of get what they were going for. Like I said, the whole thought process of as long as you have an happy ending, you can make whatever you want in between steps A and B. Again, I'm just not used to see a setting like Asterix being subjected to this. But again, maybe I got spoiled by already countless better stories anyway. Who knows? What I do know is that, at least for adaptation-wise, at least to me, it gets better only from here, because like we mentioned, we only have the American movie, the Vikings movie, and lastly mention of the gods. So see you for one of the first two next time.
Ta-ta!